Hello, welcome or welcome back to Anxious Mama and Company, a safe place for moms in all stages of motherhood to share stories, struggles, tips, and advice, a place to laugh, cry, and share all the emotions of what it means to be a mom. Hosted by yours truly, an anxious mama to 3 sons, 2 daughters-in-law, 4 dogs, 5 cats, and a passel of chickens and pigs here on our little farm in Texas. Hey everyone, thank you for joining. So I thought long and hard on who I would like to bring on as my first guest on this podcast. And I decided that who better to have on here than this anxious mama's mama. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening too, I would like you all to meet my mom, Sandy. Mom, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, baby girl, happy to do it. I'm kind of excited.
Me too. First of all, everybody, I just need to start out by saying that my mom has always been 100% supportive of any business venture, any project really that I've ever decided to take on. So I wanted to give a big shout out to you, Mom, for always supporting me. It means the world to me.
Oh, that's so sweet of you to say, baby.
Okay, so I thought some might be wondering, I've dubbed myself the anxious mama. So was I an anxious kid? Like, looking back, that was there anything that I did that made you just raise your eyebrows and be like, what is going on with her?
Well, yeah, early on there was something. Um, I remember noting that you from the get-go that I noticed it. Keep in mind, I'm a young, dumb kid when this is all going on, that you had sensory issues.
Right.
And things like you didn't like the socks. Maybe I used to love to put you in the little white socks with all the ruffles on them
Mhm.
with your shoes, and you didn't never like to wear those. And I finally figured out you got it through my thick head that that right across your toes where the socks had a little ridge
The
that
same.
bothered you.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, the seam bothered you. So um, when I
Still
finally
does.
figured that out, we just started turning the socks wrong side out,
Yeah.
and that seemed to take care of it. And so you were awful young then. You probably didn't
No,
remember. Does
I
that still
remember.
bother you
I still to
today?
this day, I don't like socks on my feet. I hate that if it's lined up wrong or whatever. I can't. I'm barefoot most of the time. I do not like socks.
Well, it started out young too. Also, I remember you couldn't wear like turtlenecks or anything like that. Anything that restricted was tight on your neck,
Yep.
you just couldn't wear.
Yep. That's still today too. I hate turtlenecks. I love the look of them, but I hate the feel of them. Isn't that funny?
Really?
Think
Yeah,
it's
because
funny.
turtlenecks have their place. Yeah.
So it
So
definitely affected how you dressed me then.
yeah, yeah. I mean, eventually, when I realized it was a real problem, but until then, I dressed you how I wanted to dress you, and just made you wear it. You'd never liked a lot of ruffles. You
Nope.
didn't like the kind of. I thought I was going to have this little baby girl that was a doll, basically, and I
You
could
dress up.
dress dress her any way I wanted. And so I did that at first, but then I little by little, bless her heart, you started communicating with me one way or another that this was not Jody.
I was not
And
happy.
I started trying to respect that. I tried anyway.
Do you remember that one picture? I think if we ever do video on my podcast, I'm gonna have to screenshot that picture. But you had made me that dress. It was like a red, ruffly, red and yellow dress, and I had to have my hair curled. And the picture, it's a beautiful picture. It's you and me and my brother, but I'm pissed off. I'm just totally hacked off in the picture because I had to wear
Uh,
that super dress I hated, and I had to have my hair curled.
yep, 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 that's true. And sometimes you just flat had to wear what I made you wear. I guess I should
You get
apologize
what you
for
get, and you
that.
don't throw a fit.
There you go. I remember, well, you were much younger than in that picture. I do remember that picture.
Yeah.
Uh, but I remember when you were younger, um, I was gonna have our family pictures made, me and you and your brother, and Kmart was gonna do it, but Kmart was only in Fort Worth then. We didn't
Uh-huh.
have one. here in town. So I rolled your hair and I made you this beautiful little uh taffeta dress and anyway, were not happy about it, but I was bound to determine you were going to have these sweet pictures made. Anyway, I'm driving to Fort Worth and I look in the rearview mirror and you are in the back seat standing on your head. And oh, I was so upset. And in that picture, I do remember you were not happy.
Yeah, I
You
think I
know,
remember that picture. It looks like I've been crying.
yeah, got one little tear it
Tear.
showed up. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my
But
goodness.
you were beautiful.
Aw.
So I got my way.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, let's move on a little further up. Let's go like school age, like elementary school age. How was that time?
Well, a lot of
Oh,
things were happening.
wait just a second, Mom. Let me preface this time period with saying that around that time, there was something that really heartbreaking that had happened to you and to our family. Do you want to elaborate on that a little?
You talking about when my mama died?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that was a terrible time for me.
How old were you?
And I believe I was 31.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah, and I had two little kids and
Yeah.
a new
And a
baby,
brand
and
new baby.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think the sister was 7 months old when Mama
Oh
died.
my
It
goodness.
was very heartbreaking,
Yeah, I
and
remember I was only 6 at the time, but I do remember, even though at that age I was too young to really understand what death meant, but I do remember my mama was crying. My mama was upset. I remember my other grandma at the time was holding me, and I remember looking up at her and asking her, "Why is my mama crying?" And I just
oh,
remember you pacing around the table until you just walked in circles around the table until Daddy got home and you could break down.
which I did, and
Yes.
yes, I needed to be able to break down. Yeah, and my mom was only 52
Yeah.
when she died, and so that's very very young, and um, losing her, I lost all the knowledge that she had about me growing up. I mean, honestly, it was uh, a very hard time for
Yeah,
me.
yeah. It's funny. I remember it's not funny, but it was kind of like a joke in our house. It wasn't a joke because we were serious, but I just remember growing up, it was like, because like you said, grandma died so suddenly, 52, that's so young. And I remember as kids, we were growing up like, oh gosh, mom's coming up on 52. Mom's almost 52. She's 52. She passed 52. We're not going to lose her. We laugh about it, but I think I've told you this before that I'm pretty sure that I've lived in fight or flight ever since that time.
Well, I'll tell you, it's funny how that affects you because all of my siblings, 52 was a marked year for us.
Right.
And we thought, okay, if we can make it past 52, we might make it a little longer.
Yeah. But like, so with raising a kid like me, you said I had some quirks you didn't really understand. So how was that time for you with me at that age when you didn't have your mom that you can call and ask?
Well, it was something that I came to really, really wish that she hadn't died so suddenly and at such a
Yeah.
young age, because around that time you developed an issue.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about that?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely want to share that with my listeners. Sure.
Okay, about that time is when you started developing OCD.
Yes.
And
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, and
and
mine was in the form of I did have some number type rituals that I had to do, but a lot of the time, but that didn't dominate my life. But the most difficult for me was the most troubling, just all encompassing thing for me was I developed trichotillomania. And so if you're listening and you don't know what trichotillomania is, that is a body focused repetitive behavior of hair pulling. So they don't really know what causes it, but they think you could maybe be genetically what's the word, predisposed, or have a traumatic or stressful event happen in your life. So all of this kind of manifested around that 1 to 2 year time frame. So I'm thinking that I personally think that maybe it was triggered around that time. So for me, it was I pulled out my eyelashes and I pulled out my eyebrows. And I say I did and was because they don't exist anymore. They don't grow anymore because it just pulled for decades. But But if you know me personally, then you know this is why I wear false eyelashes and my brows are tattooed on. So yeah, basically that's why. So how did you deal with that as my mom?
Well, I wish I could say that I dealt with it in a fine manner, but I'm afraid that's not the case, baby. It started very abruptly,
Yeah.
and uh, I, the doctors didn't really tell me much. I
Yeah.
did talk to the doctor, and at one point, one of them told me you were just trying to get attention and ignore it,
Oh
and
goodness.
um, and you know I tried that, but then I you were such a beautiful child
Oh,
that when you started doing that, it really started affecting your appearance. And
yeah.
I hated that for you because you were
Yeah.
such a beautiful child. So
Oh,
it got more and more stressful for me because of that.
yeah.
And the more stressed out I was about it, the more stressed out your daddy was about it.
Yeah.
And we didn't handle that right. We didn't give you the support you needed, and we disciplined you for something that we now know you had no control over.
Right, right. But at the time, I mean, we didn't have the resources we had. You didn't have Google at your fingertips. You didn't have your phone, your internet. You could search. You didn't have
No,
that back then. And you went
no,
to the doctor. You went to the resources that were available to you. And it just
I
it wasn't
did.
really talked about back then, not like it is now.
No, nothing was. But you know, that made me miss my mama. What this is
Yeah.
kind of what maybe because I could have called her. There were so many times I wish I could have called her and said, "Hey,
Yeah.
did I do anything weird?"
Yeah.
You know, whenever I was growing up, you know,
Right.
because I really didn't know how to handle it, and
Well,
because I didn't know how to handle it, uh, we just did the best we could,
right.
and it was
Well, it's all you
just
can
a bad
do.
time.
Well, for me, it definitely was very distressing time. I was very much ashamed of it. I was in constant fear, that you and dad were going to notice and I'd be disciplined or somebody else would notice and ask me about it because I didn't know how to explain it. There was no explanation. I just thought that um I was this weird freak of nature that was the only one in the world that did it. It pretty much dominated who I was growing up. It did severely affect me, but that can maybe be a podcast episode that we can do later. Talk about it later. Growing up with that.
Yeah.
All
Well,
righty.
and now, now there's and it's not that rare, but we didn't know that.
Well, yeah, and we didn't have the internet.
No.
I could like today I can get on and there's all kinds of chat groups and groups, Instagram pages and things for tricksters is what they call them, but people with that same thing that I have. And that it's so nice to see that. But at the time, you just thought you were this odd man out. You didn't know. But again, like we said, you used the resources that were available to you, and it would be different today if it was something that happened today.
Yeah,
So
I like to think that I would handle it better
yeah.
and be more supportive of you.
Well, that being said, I always felt loved and cared for by you and dad. I always felt like, we had stability. We always had everything we needed. I always felt very much loved and cared for. When I look back, yeah, my heart kind of hurt for that little girl because I couldn't help what I was doing, but I never looked back with a sense of anger or thinking that I wasn't loved. So just need to put that out there.
Well, thank you for that.
All right, let's fast forward a little bit. What about, oh Lord, my girl stuff when I got my period? How was that?
Well, again, I was not supportive. And I feel so bad. But Jody, you were my learning daughter. You were so different than I was when I started my period. It was no big deal. I
Yeah.
mean, it just happened, and you got what you needed to get, and
Moved
you
on.
just went on. But when you started your period, it was like the world was coming to
Oh
an end.
yeah, I
And
remember that
oh,
night. I remember that night. I
oh,
literally cried all night. I remember you were so put out with me. We lived in a two-story house, and so us kids' room were upstairs. And I remember looking down the stairs at you just bawling, and you were so disgusted with me. You were like, just go to bed, Jody. You were not sensitive to my plight at that time.
no, no, I wasn't. sure wasn't. But you were such a dramatic child. I mean, yeah,
Oh
you
my
were a
gosh.
drama
Is
queen.
that why you tell me? Because you've told me that before. You've over the years you've said after I had all my boys, you deserve to have a girl for what you put me through. And I was like, I wasn't a bad kid, but is that what you're talking about? Because of the drama,
Yes, the drama.
the drama and
Yeah.
emotions of a girl.
Yeah, I don't know if I've told you this, but one time let's talk about how a drama queen you are. Took you to the dentist. You still had your baby teeth,
Uh-huh.
so that I don't know how old you were when you lost them, but anyway, you had some cavities in your baby teeth, and the dentist told me he needed to drill them,
Film.
thing, and you started screaming. I was sitting out in the waiting room and you just started screaming. So man, I walked back there and I was gonna take the place apart. They're hurting my little girl. And he told me, he said, Miss Creech, he said, these are baby teeth. They don't have nerves. I mean, she doesn't need a shot. I promise you, she's overreacting. Well, I made him deaden your teeth to for you to fix that thing. Anyway, so when we got home, we go in the house, everything's fine.
Yeah.
We go in the house, and I just asked you, Jody, did it really hurt that bad? You said, no, I was just scared.
At least I was honest with you.
That's true. But
Oh,
I'm
that's
thinking, I
hilarious.
made such a scene with that
Oh,
dentist,
I
and he
do
knew what he
actually.
was talking about.
When you bring that up, it just made me. I just had a memory. I remember I had to get some blood work done, and
Oh, yeah.
I was terrified of the needles. And like we're like, oh, we got it, we got this. We walk in, and they put me in the little chair, and then she rubber bands my arm, puts that a
Hmm.
lot, and I was fine until she did that, and then I went to screaming. I do
Oh, I
remember this.
do.
I remember you had to kick. They were trying to hold me down and do it, and you had to kick everybody out of the room, and
Uh-huh.
we had to hold hands and say a prayer,
Yes, I
calm
do
me
remember
down,
that.
and then I was able to do it. But I wasn't ready. If I'm not ready, I can't. Has to be mindset.
Yeah, and that's you today
Yeah,
as an
yeah,
adult. You have to get yourself ready for things.
yes.
I, on the other hand, just turn my head. As long as I don't see it, I'm fine.
Oh no, I have to
But,
watch
but
everything. I feel like I have to be in control as much as I can. And if I'm not
yeah,
looking at it, I'm gonna jump or I'm gonna mess it up or something somehow.
yeah.
I mean, it was horrible having to get epidurals because of that, because I couldn't see what
Oh,
was going on.
I bet I never thought about that giving
Yeah.
you a problem, but I
Yeah, but
can
I
see
knew
how
I
it
had to
would.
get that. There was no choice.
Yeah.
All righty. Let's see. What about maybe okay, what about when I started driving? Was there any you got any funny stories of that?
Oh, a few near death
You're
scenarios.
t-
No, no, I took you. Once you went got that, you had to do your student driving, and I took you driving quite a bit. And we were out on a country road, and you were just driving, and the road turned. You were just listening, talking to me. You were not turning, and we were fixing to hit a fence, and I
Oh
yelled at
gosh.
you. I really thought you were going to kill us, but
Why
you
wasn't
put
I
on.
turning, I wonder?
I don't remember
Was I
that.
leaning? Was
Yes,
I
yes,
leaning but I
your
wasn't
body
turning?
was, but you were not turning the steering wheel.
Oh,
So I'm sure
that's
you felt
funny.
like you were, but that sure scared me. I remember after you got your driver's license. I don't know if you remember this or not, but it's so funny to me and your daddy because you called and you said you'd had a blowout
Yeah.
and you were right around the corner uh, from the house, but
Yes.
you'd had a blowout. Anyway, we go over there. Yeah, you'd hit the curb and the tire blew out.
That's why I had to blow it.
Why you had the blowout? Because we thought, oh gosh,
That's
this is terrible.
scary.
Get over there. That's what it was.
It's because I hit the curb. I did have a blowout. I
Thank
wasn't
you.
lying. Oh my
Oh
gosh.
yeah,
Well, it
yeah.
sounds like you can say, like I say about raising my boys, it was never a dull moment around here.
Oh no, no,
I
never a
kept you
dull moment.
entertained.
And it's the one thing that you know, parenting you really aren't prepared for.
No.
you don't have a lot of on the job training or
Right.
like
I
that.
remember my
And
best friend, she used to
you know,
say, I told my kids, I've never done this before.
yeah,
And you haven't, you're
yeah.
basically growing up with them, kind of.
Yeah, and each one is different,
Yeah.
Jody. I mean, you were 3.5 years younger than my firstborn, so I
Hmm.
had a baby.
Yeah.
So but his personality and your personality were nothing
Totally different.
alike,
Yeah.
and so getting him and taking care of him day to day did not prepare me for you.
Yeah. Totally different.
So
Totally different.
yeah.
Yeah. They're each their own personalities. I used to tell the boys when they'd ask me, I say, I love you all the same, but different.
Hmm.
Love you all the
Yeah,
same amount, but you're different people. You have different personalities and likes and dislikes, and
yeah,
that makes you
and
you.
it's really true.
Yeah.
It really is.
All right.
But anyway,
You got any more funny stories or anything you want to share before we end it?
I'm trying to think here.
Dad, have any funny
Well,
stories?
you know what? Maybe we don't have time now, but maybe another time we can talk about how that you kids changed mine and your father's vocabulary, things
Oh,
that because children can never
pronounced.
pronounce things, and
Yeah.
they get their own way of thinking.
Oh, yeah,
But
that'd be a good
yeah.
episode idea. We can, what kind of names and things did your kids have in your family? Because we still to this day call things certain things that our boys call, and we do in in y'all's with mom and dad too, where we say things that nobody else would know what we're talking about.
No,
It's we
no.
know what we're talking
And
about.
I laugh all the time because y'all have grown up, and so y'all call things that you used to call weird things.
Uh-huh.
Y'all call them the right names. We call them the weird things.
Weird things, yeah,
Yeah, we kept your little words that you coined, and
yeah.
I
And it's funny, you can
probably
be talking, and then all of a sudden that word just pops back in your vocabulary. Like, where'd that come from?
yeah,
I
yeah,
forgot we even
yeah,
said that.
yeah. You forever changed us.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
Mama, thank you so much for agreeing to do this with me. I've had so much fun telling
I have
stories, and
to,
yeah, so
and
and
I
it's
wish
also
it
given
would.
me some good ideas for future podcasts as well. So I
Yeah.
love you so much, and I'm so thankful to be your daughter.
Well, I'm very thankful that you are, and I love you too, baby girl.
All right. Well, everybody, that's all the time we have for this episode. So, anxious mamas unite, and we will see you next time.